Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the question and answer session for ASLO's Limnology and Oceanography Letters Early Career Publication Honor, which is organized by the Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellows. My name is Erin Peck, and I am the 7th Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellow and lead of the 2024 Publication Honor. And I'm also joined today by Rita Franco Santos, who is the 6th Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellow, and she led the 2022 publication honor. So she is the expert in the room. Many of the other past Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellows, and actually current and future, are also involved in the 2024 publication honor. And so you can find all of their Twitter handles on this slide. Okay, yeah, so today I'm going to briefly run through the background and specifics of the publication honor. Rita, feel free to please jump in and clarify any points. Once again, Rita is the expert. The audience is also, you guys are all welcome to ask questions throughout the presentation, or you can also wait till the end when we have some designated time for questions as well. This presentation is being recorded and will be hosted on the ASLO YouTube channel. But you're also welcome to send us questions through email after the session, and we'll share the Raelyn Cole editorial email at that point too. So the publication honor is for publishing in Limnology and Oceanography Letters, which is ASLO's short format journal dedicated to publishing innovative and cutting edge research in the aquatic sciences. The publication honor is solely for publications in L&O Letters, partly because it is the only fully open access ASLO journal thus far, and therefore it can be obviously financially challenging for authors to cover the publication page charges for publishing in letters. L&O Letters has a relatively high impact factor of a 7.8, making it the top journal for limnology and the second best journal in oceanography. Letters publishes numerous article types with different requirements, including letters, essays, current evidence pieces, and also data articles. So it's important to familiarize yourself with these types of articles and consider the requirements before deciding which of the first three types is right for your publication as part of the publication honor. So the publication honor was conceived and is managed by ASLO's Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellows with the goal of mitigating financial barriers for early career researchers to publishing their science in high impact journals. As we probably all know, publishing articles open access leads them to being read and cited more, thereby increasing career opportunities and success for early career researchers who are able to publish their papers open access. But open access page charges are super expensive, and ECRs are less likely to have access to publishing funds than their more senior colleagues. And of course, we also all know that economic barriers are even more present for ECRs from underrepresented identities in STEM and for ECRs from the Global South. So the early career publication honor was first announced in 2020 by the Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellow Scott Holtzling. 72 people applied for this round from 19 different countries, and ultimately 7 articles were published in association with the 2020 publication honor. Since the inception, the publication honor calls have come out every 2 years. So following the 2020 call, the second call came out in 2022. 42 people applied from 10 different countries, and so far 6 papers have been published, and there's still a few in review. And like I said, Rita is the lead of that one. So we're excited to be holding the 2024 publication honor, so the 3rd iteration, and hopefully we'll continue on this strong trajectory of receiving many strong applications and publishing many strong papers. Okay, so now we wanted to talk about the benefits of the publication honor. So one of the main, most obvious benefits of the publication honor, of course, is that if your manuscript is accepted by L&O Letters for publication, then your author page charges or APCs of $3,360 is waived. Some of the other benefits are that prior to submission of your manuscript for formal peer review in Letters, you have the option, although it's highly encouraged, of having your article friendly reviewed by one of the editorial fellows. So basically, we'll read your manuscript, we'll check that you've met all of the submission requirements, and then we'll also provide feedback and suggestions on things like grammar and syntax, paper organization and flow, and also sort of how you've presented your results and contextualized your important interpretations. This is less of like a subject matter review, like a formal peer review process, and more of sort of a friendly, let's make sure that your paper reads as strongly as possible and therefore has the highest success rate possible when you go to submit for the formal peer review process. And we think that the friendly reviews provide a lot of value to the recipients of the Early Career Publication Honor. And in fact, I just want to mention that the regular acceptance rate for L&O is less than 50%. I think it's between 35 and 50% or so for the last couple of years. But for the publication honor, it's slightly higher than 50%. So we think that the friendly reviews prior to submission for the formal peer review process does actually make a difference. And we also know that from past recipients that even when their manuscripts are not accepted into L&O Letters, if they're rejected, that they find that the submission to other journals, subsequent journals, is easier, and they have a higher rate of success in those journals. And actually, sometimes people go on to publish their original manuscript in even higher impact journals than L&O Letters. One of the other benefits that I also wanted to mention is that we will publicize your published manuscripts on social media in the ASLO bulletin, and then also in special issue collections. And all of that additional publicizing will increase the visibility of your publications. And so there's a higher likelihood that people will read and download your articles and then go on to cite them more often. So it's really important that you read through the criteria for publication in L&O Letters before you submit either an application to the Early Career Publication Honor, and then, in the future, when you go on to submit in L&O Letters in general. Really, you should always be reading through author guidelines and criteria before submitting a manuscript anywhere. Not doing so will lead to a much greater chance of rejection. And so I just want to quickly read through the criteria for publication. So the manuscript should describe the results of an original study that has not been published elsewhere. You should clearly state how your research advances scientific knowledge, the context for the conclusions of your study, and the potential significance to your field. Your work should represent an important advancement that will be of broad interest to the full aquatic science community. Your manuscript should be broadly understandable to any aquatic scientist outside of your specific area of expertise. Your analyses and study design should be technically sound and described in sufficient detail. Your results should be presented in a visually effective way, particularly for non-scientific or non-specialist aquatic scientists. Your conclusions should be well supported by the results. You should have written a data availability statement that includes a link to the data repository where your data that underlies your analyses will be available. Your manuscript should adhere to ethical standards for research and publication as described by the Committee on Publication Ethics. And your article should meet the L&O Letters guidelines for publication regarding reporting, formatting, and data availability. So those are sort of the specifics about word count and so on. And once again, the standard sort of acceptance rate for letters is between 35 and 50%. So there's always the chance that your article, even if you receive the Early Career Publication Honor Award, there's always a chance that your article might not end up being accepted to letters, but your likelihood is greater, we think, because of the friendly reviews. So to be considered specifically for the early career publication honor, I'm going to go through now the eligibility criteria. So the first thing, of course, is that you have to be an early career researcher, which means it's sort of broadly defined as students and postgraduates with your most advanced degree awarded after May 2014. But this doesn't include career breaks, which we exempt. These things that could include something like taking a year off if you've had a child or you need to do some sort of family support care. If you've had a career break for another reason, like health problems, we will take that into account, and it could extend backwards. So basically, if you graduated in May 2013, but believe that 1 year should be exempt, then we'll definitely take that into consideration. If you are curious about whether or not, if you think you fall into this category and you want to just sort of check with us, feel free to send us an email and let us know, and we'll get back to you and let you know what we think. So the second eligibility criteria for the early career publication honor is that your manuscript needs to fit the scope and scientific merit required by L&O Letters. The journal has a fairly broad scope and is also very interested in submissions from fields that aren't often featured in the journal. So if you think your work falls within the scope of the journal as it is described on the journal's page, but you don't typically see similar publications in the journal, we definitely still encourage you to apply. Third, you also need to demonstrate a financial need. So to do this, you need to address the following questions. First, do you or your supervisor have funds that can be used to cover the article processing charges of an open access manuscript? Second, have you applied for external sources of funding to pay for APCs and are waiting to hear back? And third, does your current institution or the institution where you conducted the study described in the application, if you've moved since, have an agreement with any publisher that would cover the APC for an open access publication? And so it's really important that you can demonstrate that you need financial need for the open access page charge waiver. If you have through your institution or the country that you live in, have a transformational agreement with Wiley, meaning that your page charges should be fully covered by your institution or your country, then we don't want to provide, we want to be able to sort of make the waivers available to people who don't have access to those transformational agreements. So one of the first things you should do probably is check whether or not your institution or your country has a transformational agreement with Wiley that would cover your publication in letters. Fourth, you need to be the lead and corresponding author to be able to submit your article through the program. So a lead author, you can actually have a joint first authorship with another early career researcher. So you and a colleague who's also an early career researcher could submit to the publication honor together. You can actually also submit, if you have two papers in mind, one where you are the sole lead author and one where you are the joint co-author with another early career researcher, you can actually submit 2 applications to the early career publication honor. You just have to specify that in the application form, and I'll go over that. As it relates to the corresponding author, we know that there are instances in which your supervisor requires that he or she or they be the corresponding author. We actually allow you to be a joint corresponding author with your supervisor. The only thing that we require is that you be the one that sort of communicates with the journal, and throughout the whole process, you're the primary person communicating through the peer review process. So just a bit of clarification on author types. So the first, or the lead author, is typically the person that did most of the work and has written the paper. Joint first authorship, once again, I'll just to reiterate, is accepted between two early career researchers, and the second early career researcher must be named in the application when you submit it. And anything that we use for scoring the different applications, for instance, if you're from the Global South or you are part of a underrepresented group in STEM, we'll take the average score of the two early career researchers. A co-author is another scientist who contributed to the work but is not a lead. Typically, the last author is considered to be the mentor or the PI of the project, but of course, that's very project and field specific. And then the corresponding author will be the person who handles the peer review process and is responsible for the publication's content and corresponds with the readers. Once again, the supervisor can be a joint corresponding author with the early career researcher, but the early career researcher, you must complete the peer review process and be the primary person corresponding. The fifth eligibility criteria is that you need to meet the L&O Letters data publication requirement. So the journal requires that authors make their data and metadata that support the findings of your articles available in a publicly accessible repository that issues a DOI for the data set. The journal also requires that you cite the data in your literature cited section of your manuscript. And the authors are also encouraged to make your research fully reproducible by providing not only the data and metadata, but also code and input files to recreate the paper's results. And so you can find more information on that with those two URLs. 6, you need to meet the submission deadline. So the application is due to us by July 31st, 2024, so in about a month and a half. You will hear back from us in September about whether or not you have received an early career publication honor, and then you have to be able to submit your paper by the submission deadline of June 1st, 2025. The thing is here, right, that you do not need to have a finished manuscript, right, to be able to apply for the publication honor. But any practical work, analyses, and writing activities that still need to be completed must be finished within the following 10 months. So your manuscripts will need to be submitted by L&O Letters by June 1, 2025. And the friendly review conducted by the Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellows should happen prior to that date. So you just have to sort of factor that into your timeline. So the next two slides are not actually eligibility criteria, but we do give extra weight to applicants from the Global South based on geographic location of the institution where the work was conducted. We recognize that scientific research is underfunded in countries of the Global South as defined by the UN's World Economic Situation and Prospects 2021 Statistical Annex. So you can check out this site to determine whether or not you fall into this category of being from the Global South. And so applications describing work conducted in the Global South, or we also give priority to people in the Ukraine, will be given priority in our scoring. We also give extra weight to applicants from to ECRs who identify with a historically underrepresented group in STEM. And this is broadly defined to include race, gender, disability, first generation, or any other identity component that's not typically represented in STEM. So we'll provide an optional portion of the application where you can sort of enumerate this for us. Okay, now moving on how to apply. So applications are on Google Forms, and you can find the application form linked to the publication honor, and I'll put that link in the chat as soon as the presentation is over. If you cannot submit your application through Google Forms for whatever reason, we also provided a PDF copy that you can download and fill out and then submit to the Raelyn Cole Editorial email address listed on the slide. So rcef.aslo@gmail.com. So The first thing you should do is read through, or one of the first things you should do is read through the relevant information at the top of the application page. So this will include a lot of information that we've already went over today about eligibility and L&O Letters submission guidelines, including the different article types, how to write a scientific significance statement, and also the data publishing policy. And so going through the other main sections of the application, so the first section will be about you. The second section is optional and will be about the second early career researcher that you plan to publish with as the co-lead author, if you plan to share first authorship with that other ECR.
Sorry, hold on. No, it's okay. I'm good.
I'm gonna
Sarah, can you please mute yourself? Yeah, great, thanks.
Next, you'll specify what article format you plan to submit, so letters, essay, or current evidence. And then next, you'll provide a scientific significance statement. This is limited to 750 characters, including spaces, and you can find out more information about how to write a science significance statement at the ASLO website using this URL here. This will basically define what you believe to be is the significance of your research. We recognize that you might not have the manuscript fully completed at this stage, and so you can just sort of talk about what you expect the significance of your research to be. You'll then provide responses to the following question: how does your study expand our existing knowledge of aquatic ecosystems? Once again, you might not have your research fully determined at this point, so just do your best to describe what you expect your answer to this will be. So you'll provide a description of the unique or integrative approaches to your research, and this will be 600 characters maximum, including spaces. Next, you'll let us know the current status of your manuscript and when you expect to submit it. Again, hopefully this will be by, I think it was July 1st, 2025. Then you'll indicate whether you'll be able to meet the data publishing policy requirements. Hopefully the answer to that will be yes. And then the next questions will be optional, and you'll fill this out if you're more than 5 years from the completion of your highest degree, but still believe you should qualify as an ECR because of a career break. Yeah, Rita.
Sorry, Erin, it's 10. This is from the 2022. This has been updated. So it's 10 years since your highest degree, your most advanced degree.
Right. Yeah. So before May 2014. Then you'll respond to the questions about whether you and possibly your second applicant are currently living and working in the Global South or Ukraine. So you'll just pick that country from the drop-down menu. You will then have the optional opportunity to describe whether you hold an underrepresented identity in STEM. And then lastly, you'll indicate whether you meet the financial need requirement. And again, hopefully the answer to that is yes. So we're about to take questions. We're almost at the end of the presentation. And I know this was a lot of information, but we will be, again, just to reiterate, we will be providing the recording of this Q&A session on the ASLO YouTube channel. And if you have more questions in the future after the Q&A session ends, you can send them to the Raelyn Cole editorial email address. Again, it's rcef.aslo@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, now known as X, to get additional updates. And also definitely please check out the related publications listed on the screen. They are ASLO Takes a Step to Addressing the Inequity of Open Access Publication, Limnology and Oceanography Letters Early Career Publication Honor, Platform for Underrepresented Voice in Aquatic Sciences, and also message from the Executive Director, the L&O Letters Early Career Publication Honor interview with Rito Franco Santos, ASLO Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellow from 2022 to 2024. And here are also some more useful links, our Twitter handle and email. And also if you like more experience becoming a peer reviewer, you can consider joining this early career public peer reviewer list using the form linked here. So with that, I'm going to attempt to stop sharing my screen. I also said that I was going to put a link in the chat, so I will do that, and then I would be happy to take any questions. In all of my teaching training, I was told that I should have at least 30 seconds of awkward silence.
Hi, everyone. Just wanted to encourage you that this is a really good moment to ask whatever questions you may have. You can always email us if you think of questions later, but it's always easier to get answers in person.
Okay, so we have a question in the chat. Do you know how to check if our institution has an APC agreement with Wiley? Rita is
Yes,
the absolute expert on this, so I'm going to let her take that.
I already have the website here, and you can have a look. So this is Wiley's website, and it will have the names of countries that it has agreements with. So some of the countries will have several institutions listed. Some will have just one agreement for the whole country. So you can check in there for your country, and then if your country has several institutions listed, just look for the name of your institution.
Are you putting a link in the chat, or do you?
Yeah, the link's in the chat.
I didn't get it.
Oh, sorry, I sent it as direct message to someone. I will send it to everyone now. There.
Got it.
I have a quick question. For the eligibility, is manuscripts currently in review in the journal? Is that also eligible, or it has to be a brand new submission?
That's a great question. Rita, what do you think?
It is eligible.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, one of the people who published in the 2022 round, when she submitted her application, her paper was already under review with letters.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would love you to submit then.
Yeah. The only difference is that instead of getting a friendly review before you submit, you can ask for a friendly review when you get the report from your peer reviewers.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
the other question I have is related to the agreement. So if my institution, or I mean, there's co-author on my manuscript that already has institution agreement with Wiley, would you recommend me not submit to this award because I do have that fee waived, the open access fee waived now?
So you would only get that fee waived, assuming that your co-author is the only one that has access to an agreement. You would only get that fee waived if your co-author was the corresponding author in your paper. So I would encourage you to submit, because giving early career researchers that experience with the peer review process is one of the aims of the publication honor, right? So if your co-author is the corresponding author, you're not going to get that experience. You're going to have a paper in L&O Letters, but you're not going to get the full experience, which is why we always encourage people to apply. You wouldn't be able to get the APC waived just because they are a co-author. They would have to be a corresponding author.
You also get a bit more like clout, I guess, if you are the corresponding author. Like when people see that you're the corresponding author, they know that, you know, you handled every aspect of the publication process. And if it's solely your co-author or your supervisor as the corresponding author, sometimes there's an assumption that like maybe you left the field or are no longer like working with that data set or in that, you know, in that area. So there's, in addition to having that experience, you also get a bit more
visibility,
recognition, exposure, so on, as the corresponding author.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, yeah, my case is a little bit complicated because my that co-author is currently my corresponding author. And we had to put in place to waive the fee, and this is before I knew about this award entirely. So
yeah.
Yeah.
If it is, I guess I would counsel that if you think that co-author is willing to not be the corresponding author and give you sole corresponding authorship, if you receive the early career publication honor, then I would take that route and apply for this.
Is this the manuscript that is already under review?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, so you are probably going to have to contact the journal, because changing corresponding authors halfway through is not a straightforward process, and I'm not even sure if it is allowed.
You can, I've had to do that on one of my publications before, it was a similar, just sort of like, you know, logistical, whatever reason. It is possible to do it, but you do definitely have to contact the editor, which would be Jim Clorn.
Yeah, I would suggest that you email the editor-in-chief. I can put his email here and ask about potentially changing the corresponding author. Your co-author can still have his email featured in, you know, if the manuscript is accepted, you can have both of your emails featured in the paper. So he's still a corresponding author, but one of our requirements is that you act as the person communicating with the journal. So if you wouldn't be able to change corresponding authors, that would make you ineligible.
Okay, yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about the complicated case.
No.
Oh, it's all right. I mean, if you don't ask, you don't know. I'm just looking for the email from the editor, and I'll put it on the chat when I have it.
Great. I'll read the next one. So in the chat we have, is L&O Letters fully open access or a hybrid journal? For my specific institution, it looks like Wiley covers APCs, but only if the journal is open or hybrid. And if we don't have specific funds, since lack of funding also is a requirement for this program, does that make me ineligible? So L&O Letters is a fully open access journal. It is not hybrid. For my specific institution, it looks like that Wiley covers it.
Can you place your institution on the chat, and then I can just quickly have a look so I can give you a more decisive answer? L&O Letters is a fully open access journal.
Yeah.
UC Davis. So if I remember correctly, UC Davis is covered. Just give me a moment and I'll check. Yeah, so the member institutions from the University of California have an agreement with Wiley. I would suggest, and this is to qualify, articles must be published in a fully open access journal. So indeed, that sounds like you are ineligible. If you want to be sure, you can contact the people at UC Davis Library and ask them whether indeed you would you wouldn't have to pay for anything via UC Davis, but it looks like you are ineligible.
You're ineligible for the early career publication honor, but you're eligible to receive the waiver through your institution.
Exactly. So you can still submit to L&O Letters, It's just that you wouldn't be able to apply for the early career publication honor. Your institution will cover for your article processing charges. I put the link specific to the Californian institutions on the chat. No worries.
Any other questions? We can also answer other questions. Obviously, this time is primarily for the early career publication honor, but we can also answer other questions about open access publishing, transformational agreements, the Raelyn Cole Editorial Fellowship, ASLO, being an early career researcher in science, etc.
Will the links that you shared in your last slide, will those be or will the slides be available? And also the second question is, will the links also be posted?
Were you specifically referring to these links here?
Yeah.
Or...
Yep.
If I can, like, quickly...
The video is being recorded, so this will be available on YouTube.
Okay.
I'll also just throw those links in the chat really quick. So there's the first one. I already put this one in the chat before, but I'll put it again. Oh, wait, no, sorry, that was this one. And the third one.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of questions later on as you're going through the application, just remember that you can always email us or contact us on X, Twitter, and we'll answer as soon as possible. You can also check out the publications from the 2020 and 2022 calls. I will, they are a part of a virtual issue that is housed in the L&O Letters website, and I will put the link here on the chat, just if you want to know what kinds of manuscripts we've published by the Early Career Publication Honor.
I think maybe we can end the session now. Thank you everyone so much for joining. Can't be said too many times, but please reach out to us if you have any questions.